Hello, hello, and welcome to another live taping of the I've Created a Monster podcast. I am Rushni, known as Glamazini out here on the internet. And this podcast is a place where I share my unfiltered thoughts. I run my mouth, I give you my observations and my personal musings about whatever I feel like. Okay. I am live on Instagram and on YouTube with my patrons. I try to go live on Facebook as well, but the technology is not technologying and I don't have time for the stress. All right. Instagram, if you are watching live, say hello, you guys. I'm going to let you guys, as usual, see the beginning of the podcast taping, but Patreon gets to be live with me in the chat on YouTube. They get the entire thing. They get to give me topics. They get the whole kit and caboodle. Okay. All right. Amen. Amen. So if you want to watch live, become a patron at patreon.com/glamazini. Today I am wearing elephant ears. Yes, there will always be a headband when I'm taping this podcast because I bought an entire pack of headbands and I already own a lot of headbands. So I actually did not have to buy headbands for this, but why not? You see what I'm saying? It's something that I enjoy. It's something that I love. It's something that gives me a lot of pleasure. And a lot of pleasure is what I need right now because my mood is super low. So I'm going to talk about my mood being low. I'm going to take a little jaunt, a little tra-la-la, a little traipso over to what I think is a discussion of perimenopause and why my mood is low. I'm going to update you guys on my son and his surgery. Talk about something I heard about Instagram today, which was really fascinating. Ironically, I heard it on Threads. Why am I getting Instagram news on Threads? Whatever. And then I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the election because I tape this podcast every 2 weeks. And the last time we taped this podcast, we had not voted for the president of the United States yet. And we were drunk on hope. And so when I go back and I look at the podcast taping from 2 weeks ago, that girl was hopeful and, well, she was realistic, but I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. I'm also going to talk about my thoughts on the whole blue bracelet thing. So if you're on Instagram, once again, come over, become a patron, patreon.com/glamazini. I would love to have at least one more patron. Today, that'd be beautiful. Now let's talk about my mood. So my mood is low. And I feel like the reason that my mood is low is because I'm getting old. What do you mean you're getting old, Rushni? You don't look old. I know. I'm also sitting here in a room filled with pineapples with elephant ear headband on my head that I may or may not have purchased recently. I don't always have to buy this stuff, you guys. I own it. Okay. It's a way of life at this point. But I am breathing on 50's neck. I say that all the time in jest, but I really, really am. I am very close to turning 50. I'm not 49 yet. So I know that I'm jumping the gun, but you kind of round up and 50 is the next big, year. So I'm breathing on 50's neck. And as I breathe on 50's neck, like so, I notice a lot of things going on in my world and changes with my body. And one of those changes is the fact that my mood be mooding. Okay. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing perimenopause or peri, as Tabitha Brown calls it, in a way that just makes your mood just tank you into the abyss. Now, I have had a lot of information on what it could be and what I could do about it. And trust and believe I am doing all of those things. However, this morning I woke up and I didn't even have to look at my period app to know what was going on with the hormones. I woke up and there was just nothing right with the world. Okay. I was not happy. I was sinking into an abyss. I was just like, why? None of this matters. All is lost. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Wah, wah, wah. And so and so. Okay. And without fail, you guys, I just decided, okay, this has to be hormones. It has to be hormones. It has to be age. I pretty much have noticed that whenever my period is coming, right before, even if I don't look in the app, I am in a all is lost, what is the point state of mind. So I pulled up the app, of course, and I'm like a couple days beyond when it was supposed to come. Now, no, I know y'all gonna ask the question. The answer is no. The answer is no. But yeah, so my mood is low. And I'm just saying that it's hormones and aging. The other reason why my mood is low is daylight savings time and the fact that the sun is non-existent in Missouri. Okay. Where is the sun? What is going on? I am a Virgin Islander. First, I'm a Black person. And Black people, we need more vitamin D. Okay, vitamin D comes from the sun. Melanin blocks vitamin D, yada, yada, beta, ba. The closer that your ancestry is to people that came from near the equator, the more vitamin D you need, the more melanin in your skin you need. All of that to say, I come from the Virgin Islands, right? 16 degrees off the equator. And I haven't seen the sun in days. And that, too, my friends, is tanking my mood. Not only that, at like 4:44, you blink, and at 4:45, it's pitch dark outside. I hate it. I hate it. So there was the smallest sliver of sun a little while ago. I took my butt outside with my head tie on, head scarf, whatever y'all call it up here in the States. Okay. My hair was still tied up in a satin scarf. All right. I got ready today, but because y'all heard me say my mood was low, I didn't feel like it. And I traced my butt outside and I sat outside in the little sliver of sun because I was like, I need to do this podcast and I need to at least pretend like I have some energy. Okay. So that's basically how your girl is feeling right now. Let me update you guys on my son. Yeah. So if you are unaware, my son, Zion, had a huge surgery. It started in September. It ended in October. What do you mean by that, Rushni? You got to go back to episode 1 and listen to episode 1 to find the whole shebang. But basically, my son's surgery started in September and finished in October. Amen. Amen. We got out of the hospital on October 8th, and we have been home healing ever since. He is doing very well. Some things are going in the direction that we need them to go, and we do have some new issues happening. Let's just put it that way without putting all the man business in the street. If you guys are prayer people, continue to pray because we are not fully out of the weeds, so to speak, yet, but we're working on it. Our next appointment is this Thursday, and it is a triune appointment. Okay. It's a 3-part appointment. Hallelujah. With the orthopedic surgery team, the plastic surgery team, and the wound care team. Why is that, Rushni? Because last time I facilitated a 3-part appointment, a triune appointment with all those teams because I don't like the fact that the way that our medical system is set up, they will have you doing all these, everybody's so siloed and everybody's so disparate. Even when we were in the hospital with my son, everybody's just working on their silos and it almost feels like they're not integrated and they're not talking to each other. That exhausts me. So the last time we went to the hospital, I collapsed all the appointments on top of each other, literally, and invited one of the other people to the other people's appointment. It was a whole thing. She came. It was wonderful. And I'm doing the same thing on Thursday. If you are a praying person, please pray because my son is not 100% out of the weeds right now with his healing. We are going in a good direction with one thing and we are going in a not the best direction with the other thing. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Now let's talk about this last thing. And then Instagram, I'm going to have to say bye-bye to you guys. Bye-bye. Bye. Do you know what that is from TikTok? The white boots out the door. You got to go. Sorry. I spent a lot of time on TikTok. Anyway, why was I just on Threads and found out that starting December 13th, you're not going to be able to follow hashtags on Instagram anymore. Instagram, did you know that? Starting December 13th, you won't be able to follow hashtags on Instagram anymore. And the hashtag that you are following on Instagram, they will no longer appear in your feed. Not only that, Mr. Instagram, the guy that came up with Instagram, the top of the food chain, was talking to Marquez Brownlee. And in the video, he basically was like, yeah, hashtags are not that important anymore. So if you are on Instagram, specifically, I don't know if it's how it's going to run down on the internet itself, but if you're on Instagram specifically, the boost that you used to get and the ability to reach an audience through hashtags is diminished and going away. Blue Isis says on YouTube, why, what, why? Okay, I don't know. I'm assuming the potency of hashtags I have no idea if I'm being honest. I just saw that December 13th, you will no longer be able to follow hashtags on Instagram, and the hashtags that you are currently following will no longer appear in your feed. I don't know if that means you're not going to be able to search the hashtag still. I have no idea about that part. But Mr. Instagram, the top of the Instagram food chain, I forgot his name. Okay. I told you, my My whole mood is low today, but I'm getting it out. Okay. He said it's not a big of a deal. So if it's a big deal to y'all and y'all have been relying heavily on hashtags, especially on Instagram, don't. Blue Isis says I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The more they stay the same, the more they change. Listen, people are out here voting for a fascist government. So in the grand scheme of life, Instagram hashtags are not the biggest problem that I want to lean into. You guys heard me say that my son's healing is going good in one direction and not good in the other direction. I own 2 pediatric wheelchairs. So, when I kind of think about where my priorities lie, the Instagram hashtags, it is what it is. Okay, at this point, you just gotta let it go. Okay, and the last thing I'm gonna talk about before I say goodbye to Instagram Live, and someone sent me recently another social media platform suggestion. I don't know the name of the social media platform, if I'm being honest. The only details I know are apparently it is a existing and or potentially new Black-owned social media platform. And this is what I want to say about that. I am not joining another social media platform, you guys. I'm not doing it. Okay. I am barely holding on by a thread on the ones that we have. Okay. I am live on YouTube right now on a second YouTube channel that I created for this specific podcast at Monster Created. By the way, if you have not subscribed, youtube.com/Monster Created. Okay. I am live on Instagram on a phone with a light on it that I bought off TikTok. And I tried to go live on a second phone next to the Instagram phone on Facebook. I am not joining another social media platform. Let me tell y'all a story. Back in the day, when I was young, I am not a kid anymore. But some days I said, I wish I was a kid again. I had to get that out. I told you guys my mood is low, so I'm going to take any little inkling of joy that I can have. Okay. And my elephant ears are not standing up. If you're listening to it on the podcast, you're really missing out. I'm going to try to take a photograph of myself, but the elephant ears are very floppy. I would like to say that I did iron the elephant ears, because just because I'm wearing an animal headband does not mean that I have to be wrinkled. Okay, they was kind of crushed and they was just not doing what they was doing. I'm sorry, Blue Isis said she thought they were mouse ears. I think they're elephant ears. Specifically Blue Isis, because I bought the Serengeti package of animal ears. Okay, so I think these are actually supposed to be elephant ears. Thank you very much. Mouse ears. I guess they could be mouse ears too. Whatever. Are there mice on the Serengeti? I think they're supposed to be elephants. So let me tell y'all a story real quick. Back in the day, I'm not going to sing it again, when the pandemic was pandemicking, like height of 2020, everybody was in the house, bored in the house, and in the house bored. And Clubhouse popped off. Remember Clubhouse? And everybody you got to get on Clubhouse. Girl, you got to get on Clubhouse. Oh my God, Russian, you love Clubhouse. You love to talk. Russian, you love to talk. It's all audio. You could talk, about Clubhouse. Guess who never got on Clubhouse? It's me, Glamazini. I'm in here. I never got on Clubhouse. Never once. Because I am exhausted with social media platforms now. Also, something in my perceiver told me that it wasn't going to be around for long. Don't ask me. I know people be saying stuff after the fact. I'm not a person that needs to say stuff. Something told me, you don't need to do that. And I didn't. And I don't even know if Clubhouse still exists, you guys. One of the things I will do at times, though, is sneak over to a social media platform and grab my handle at Glamazini. Because I don't care if you are on Mastodon. I don't care if you're on TikTok. I don't care if you are on Instagram. Listen, I don't care if you're on Truth Social. I don't know if I snuck over there, but I am Glamazini. Nobody else is Glamazini except me. Okay. Do I post on these platforms? No. So does that mean if this Black-owned platform that this person emailed me about, I don't know. I might sneak over there and I might grab my handle at Glamazini, but that might be all I could do. I don't have it in me. I don't want a new platform, okay? I'm barely dealing with the old platforms as it is. I decided recently that I was just going to hyper focus on one platform a week. I've tried that in the past. It worked out really well. I'm going to do it again. So this week I'm actually hyper focused on Facebook, which is why I was trying to go live on Facebook. It didn't work out all as well. Okay. One more thing is last time I told you guys that I could not figure out how to get the podcast audio up on all the different platforms. I have since figured out a way that seems to work. It is rss.com. Also, a listener of the audio platform, ironically, did message me and tell me another platform that they use for their podcast, basically to distribute it without great effort to a bunch of different places. So if you listened to the original episode 1 on Spotify, it is now all of them. The 2 episodes are in a different stream, and I will make sure that that information is below this video when this is posted on YouTube, so that people can find it where it exists. Okay. And that's it for now. Instagram, I'm going to say bye to you guys. Thanks for joining. If you would like to join live in the chat now or in the future, patreon.com/Glamazini. Let's talk about the election. Woo! Okay. What's wild is the last time we filmed this, it was the day before election. It was November 4th. I filmed this and record this podcast every 2 weeks. So it is now November 18th. It is 2 weeks since the election. So I have had a lot of time to think and process through my emotions, and I'm nowhere near as fresh in my feelings as I would have been if I had to record this episode right after the election, right? So here are my thoughts. I woke up the next morning, November 6th, after the election, and I checked my phone. I intentionally checked my WhatsApp with my cousins because I knew that they would tell me who won, and it would be in a way that wasn't jarring and horrible, right? Like I wouldn't open up Facebook to some way of finding out I don't want to find out. Ironically, the way I found out was a family member being pissed off about it and dropping the screenshot of the electoral college map in the WhatsApp, like what the entire heck, and tagging me and was like, what is this? And you have to remember that my family is a mix of people who are living in the mainland contiguous states, US citizens, living in US territories, US citizens, and not living in US territories, non-US citizens, and some US citizens not living in US territories. I have a smorgasbord. I have a mix, okay? And so a lot of the people who were watching and who are my family members were not active US voters. Yeah, because if you are not a US citizen, you cannot vote. So I was one of the few people in my immediate family who could go vote for president. However, the world was watching, and the world was hoping for a different outcome. Let's just put it that way. The world was hoping for a different outcome. I spoke to somebody just today who is a US citizen who does not live in the United States right now, and they told me that they don't even want to see the president-elect on their television, so all they watch is Cartoon Network. Like they can't deal with it. So the world was watching, and the world was disappointed. Also, I should fix that to say my world was watching and my world was disappointed. And what I mean by that is my world is filled with Black women. And when you look at the demographics for who voted for who, Black women voted for Kamala Harris almost unanimously. Okay. And I say almost unanimously because all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And apparently 8% of Black women decided something else. And if I'm being honest, I think I know at least 1 or 2 of those 8% Black women because I live in the Missouri Bible Belt in a red state, and the colonization seeps into their brains. Okay. And we're not going to go into all of that. So I woke up and I was disappointed because I saw this electoral college map, and my family member was like tagging me and saying, what the heck happened here? And the first thought I had was grief, was heartbreak, was sadness. And it was because I was, one, looking forward to being led by Kamala Harris's joy. As you guys know, I'm a person with a depression diagnosis. I'm a person with a PTSD diagnosis. The daggone mental health professionals like to give me a diagnosis. Okay. I don't love a diagnosis in the sense that I don't like labels and I don't like to perform into labels. And I have found in the past that labels sometimes will suck you in and you'll start behaving like the label. Right. But also, I do understand the complexity of getting labels because labels help you find each other in the sense of like black woman. I can find you because I say black woman and y'all know who I'm talking about. Okay. Labels help me find also ways of treatment when it comes to a diagnosis. So it's easier for me to say my son has spina bifida and find ways of treatment than for me to just walk around being like, well, like describing random things. Just call it what it is and you find it a lot easier. That's why people give me these diagnoses. But with the diagnosis of depression, you could imagine living in a country where supremacy, perceived exceptionalism, um, honestly, low cognitive functioning. I know I'm not supposed to say that. People always tell me that I'm supposed to be nice and I'm not supposed to say that. But cognitive functioning is on a spectrum. And when you look at the demographics and how they voted, the lower, I'm not going to say that cognitive functioning is correlated with education, but access to education gives you more ability to learn critical thinking skills and complex layered critical thinking skills and research skills so that you get your information from primary sources. And when you see something from a secondary or a tertiary source that's in a meme, you have a tendency to go and research the source as opposed to just believe what you were told on TikTok in a meme, right? So access to education teaches you these tools and skills. And when you look at the number of people who were non-college educated that voted for -45, lack of education and whiteness were the weakest link. Okay. Because every other combination was balanced and or heavily Kamala weighted. But when you look at whiteness and the desire to preserve perceived exceptionalism and superiority based off of ancestry and skin complexion, they voted in that way. And as much as people want to thrash all over the place and act like they didn't know that the country still had racism in it, me understand how that's a thing that shocked anybody. Heartbreak is what I felt. Not shocked, not shocked. Heartbreak for being reminded of the absurdity of that exceptionalism message, and how it still can have such power. And then actually, I was surprised when I saw the demographics of non-college educated voting patterns because I'd never really thought about it. I'd never really thought about it, but it did make me realize why this administration is so hell bent on dismantling things like the Department of Education. Because you got to keep your base dumb. If you're benefiting from a base that is not educated and does not have access to education and is trying to figure out why their American dream is not working out for them the way that they were told it was going to work out for them, especially when they feel like they are in the exceptional class. And so privilege means you are owed your prizes. If you cannot collect your prizes and you can't figure out how, and on top of that, you do not have access to education and the ability to learn tools, right? And you're just kind of sitting on a promise of exceptionalism, which is a offshoot of the message of privileging in any space, whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's intellectualism, whether it's pretty, whether it's whatever, financial, right? Then you just are either going to turn inward and implode because you can't figure out why you're not doing better, or you're going to explode. The people that implode go to what's wrong with me. They go to depression. They go to, right? I'm an imploder. I'm a person that turns inward when I'm like, what's wrong? But some people explode. And one of the things that -45 has done with precision is play on the ability for the people who thought they should be doing better. And they definitely should be doing better than someone like me, who is a brown woman with access to all of these middle class luxuries and education and everything in this system. The system says they're supposed to be doing better and they're not. -45 did a exquisite job of turning them toward brown people brown and black people and saying they're the problem. I just, it's amazing. And when you look at it, if I'm being honest, people in that class see themselves as counterparts with him because of whiteness, not realizing that there is literally no way that Donald J sees them as equal to him, because they think that what they have in common is whiteness, and that is going to save them. And he is going to pull them out of this confusing place that they don't believe they're supposed to be in. There's a bit more to it, but it was heartbreaking. Okay? It was heartbreaking. Blue Isis said the thought that one even needs to fact check. Cheska Lee on all platforms, made a video recently in response to her very popular Leopard Eats My Face song that she sings. She sings this song whenever a -45 supporter somehow F's around and finds out, basically. The person gets a negative outcome from something that they voted for or something they aligned for, that I assume that they were thinking was going to happen to other people, but it happened to them. Like, so for example, in 2016, when he was first elected, I remember watching a news story about a man that was being deported who had voted for him. And I don't know what that man thought was going to go down, but I know very good and well when he traipsed his little butt up into that booth and put his name down, he wasn't thinking to himself that he was going to be the one that got, the sweeping deportation. So Francesca has this popular song that comes from a tweet about the leopards eating your face. And it says, "I never thought the leopards would eat my face," says the woman who voted for the leopards eating your face party. That's what the tweet says, right? So Francesca is explaining that to people. And at the end of that explanation, she says, the art of research is lost. I don't think she goes into primary sources, but she alludes to the fact that the art of the primary source is lost. And as a Gen X woman who grew up being educated and having to cite my sources, and who then in her 20s, the internet really came to be, well, late teens, like 19, 20, right? The internet really came to be a thing and then started to really become. So I had a whole childhood without the internet and had to research in encyclopedias. And just because somebody said something, it didn't mean that it was 100%. I had to look for the primary source. When I see something on the internet now, I will take it with a grain of salt, but I will also try to go and see if it's an actual number, a real piece of data from a more trusted primary source. Just because somebody on the internet tells me a thing doesn't mean I believe it, right? Because everybody and their grandmother out here right now flapping their lips about tariffs. And clearly they don't understand how tariffs work. And as a Virgin Islander, who, as you heard, I have dual citizenship, and I have had to ship things like generators to family members out of the United States to a US territory that then is going to be taken by ferry to a non-US territory. I have physically had to pay my own customs taxes, tariffs, mini tariffs. So I understand who's paying the tariff. You know what I mean? I've seen people on the internet explaining it entirely differently. But you know who I listen to? The economists. The economists. The people who study economy. The people who go back and who can tell me that no, when he put tariffs last time he was president, it did not make the companies lower their prices to the companies that were selling in other countries lower their prices to remain competitive, which is what one of these MAGA chicks was saying on the internet. It's going to make them lower their prices to remain competitive. It did not. Literally, the data shows it did not. The cost went straight to the consumer. The companies in other countries kept their prices exactly the same. Last time -45 did something like this, and the cost went straight to the consumer. That's what happened. Okay. So anyway, let me go back. Francesca is saying people don't look up stuff anymore. And it's true. People just see a meme and believe it and go about their business. Do you know how many times people have sent me things? Well-meaning people have sent me things and I've had to write them back and say, that's AI. Just because Denzel Washington is on the screen, that's not his voice. That's AI. It's not even matching his mouth. It's not. It's not matching his mouth. Okay. So it doesn't even, it doesn't shock me that people with the lower access to education, and I'm not saying that to be judgy, I'm just saying education teaches you tools on how to derive complex results and thoughts and outcomes from what you're reading. And also to have a healthy level of skepticism, especially if you go into STEM and science based um, disciplines. You have to have a healthy dose of skepticism to be able to be an innovative thinker, or else people can just hand you a thought and you just believe it. And it's giving very much sheep. It's giving very much bah, which is wild because during the pandemic, weren't we being called sheep? Anyway, whatever. Okay. Blue Isis said, like these people that he's getting rid, the people who believe he was getting rid of Obamacare. Oh, wait, that's another name for the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. And they're flabbergasted because they don't know what to do for their health insurance. This is what I'm saying. That specific thing, if you don't know what that is, there's a whole thing going around on the internet of that happening with a few people. I've seen one lady tell a story of another mom who saw her at her child's school, and I saw a post on Reddit. Those are the two that I've actually like seen directly. Everything else I've just kind of heard stories of people talking about it. And what's happening is people saying that they didn't realize, people who voted for negative 45, who said he wants to get rid of Obamacare, who have the Affordable Care Act as their health insurance, but don't realize that Obamacare is the name that Republicans call the Affordable Care Act because they want to play on the inner racism of people who are not critical thinkers. And it's working. And that's scary. That's scary because there are literally people who he knew, him and his people knew back when they did the whole birther thing, when Obama was trying to get into office and he questioned the man's citizenship and he was saying something about him being a hidden Muslim, all of this foolishness. He knew that racism is an angle that he can go with this base of people because they are promised their prizes because of privilege. So he dipped his little pinky toe in with the birther, and then he just kept going. And he called it a nickname of Obamacare, knowing that aligning it with a black man would have people looking at it some kind of way. And to the extent that this man actually has people voting for him so he can get rid of Obamacare, not realizing that they have Obamacare because Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. It's absolute insanity going on out here. The critical thinking is not critically thinking. It's not. And it's sad. So I wake up the next morning. I'm sad. I'm heartbroken. I really did want to see what some of the policies that she was proposing could do. I was excited for the ones that could affect me. Caretaker, funding, Medicare stuff, yada, yada. I am the mother of a person who, I didn't know. I wanted to see. Might be. When negative 45 was elected, the brain just shut off. You see how I could not get that word to come out my mouth. Elected? Lord Jesus. I thought elephants had long memories. What's going on, elephant ears? Have y'all not kicked in? The last time negative 45 was elected, my son was directly affected because he immediately cut funding to all sorts of programs, one of which was funding a program that my son benefited from here in Missouri. And the reason why I know it was him was because when the case manager, who is still my Facebook friend, came to my home and she had to shut us all down and tell us that she was no longer, her whole department wasn't going to be a thing anymore. So the benefits my son was getting, we wasn't getting them no more. She told me flat out that it annoyed the living daylights out of her because she would go into people's homes to do exactly what she's doing with me, tell them that they're no longer getting this benefit. They would fuss at her, but they would have Trump stuff in their house. So they voted for the man who shut off the funding for their child with special needs, and they mad at her. It's not, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm tapping my head like it's not making sense. The sense is not sensing. I was excited to see some of the other policies that she was suggesting, proposing come to fruition. And I was just excited about being led by joy. I had 100 days of being, high on hope, basically high on hope and feeling like, oh, wow, this is possible. Now, underneath it all, did I really think that America was ready to vote in a Black woman? Listen, let me say this, and then I'm going to go on to my thoughts on the blue bracelet, and then we're going to wrap it up, okay? My coping mechanism of choice is dissociation. Okay. My coping mechanism of choice is, say it with me, dissociation. It has taken many years of therapy for me to learn how to stay present and to not check all the way out. Okay. Because that's what my nervous system wants to do. And that's what my nervous system does when I want to feel safe. So did I allow myself to check out just a little bit and go into the la la land of hope just a little bit? I did. It felt good. Okay. It felt good. It felt cozy. It felt like a weighted blanket, a heated weighted wrap. You know what I mean? Now, was there like a little bit, a lot of bit, a moderate amount of me that was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. It was in there, but I just wasn't allowing myself to really go there because I'm one of these people where I let myself go to a place when it's necessary. Okay. I have way too many things going on in my life, like a son having a surgery that started in September and ended in October, to really like go down the mental rabbit hole and crisis bill. It's just not a thing for me anymore. So I let myself feel like, intoxicating levels of hope for 100 days. And then when I woke up on November 6th and saw that, uh, I just said, oh, Lord Jesus. And that was it. I didn't fully crash out. And I have noticed that plenty of Black women have basically said, get somebody else to do it, which takes me over to this whole idea of the blue bracelets. If you've been on the internet, specifically on TikTok, is where I saw it start. There was one video I saw where a white lady was asking, is there a way for her to let people know that she is a safe person to be around and she did not vote for negative 45? Okay. By the way, I'm thinking about calling him negative 92 because I think if you add 45 and 47 together, 45 plus 47 is 92. So I think when he gets back in office, I'm going to put it together and start calling him negative 92 because we went back 45 years on his first term and we're going back at least 92 on the second one. Okay, at least 92. Let me know what you guys think about that. So anyway, this lady gets on TikTok and she specifically is like, how do I do it? She did not propose the blue bracelets. I saw her video. She did not propose the blue bracelets. She just asked, like, I feel some kind of way. I feel like I want people to know that I'm safe. When I saw her video, two things went through my mind. I saw it relatively early before the internet got a hold of it. Two things went through my mind. The first thing I thought was, I have no problem with that gesture per se. I mean, at base level, because to me, it was kind of like when allies wear pride stuff, it's a way of saying we are safe. You go to a business, you see a rainbow sticker in the window, people who that pertains to feel safe when they're coming into business. I get it. Like I get the concept, right? Also, I told you guys that in 2016, my son lost his benefits because when negative 45 was elected, there was a department that availed him to multiple programs that he was no longer availed to because negative 45 came in and cut funding, right? And his case manager and I are still Facebook friends. So she, back then, 8 years ago, had said the same thing to me. She was like, a white woman was like, I feel some kind of way. Black women are cutting their eyes at me in the grocery store. And part of me wants to be like, I didn't vote for that joker. And I remember telling her, you should get a t-shirt that has Shaggy printed on it that says it wasn't me. And we laughed and that was it. She never did anything though to signal. She didn't wear a blue bracelet, but it's not a new sentiment is all I'm saying. Okay, Blue Ice is saying negative 92 sounds right to me. I think so. I think if we get past Inauguration Day alive and if we're all still here and allowed to access the internet, I say that, but then I'm going to go with negative 92. Okay, I'm going to go with negative 92. If we still have free speech in our country. but I'm not going to do that just yet because, anyway, I'm going to stick with negative 45 for right now. So anyway, it's not a new sentiment for a white person to want people to know it wasn't me. I didn't do it. So anyway, this woman posts up this thing on TikTok. She asked the question and I saw the comment section and I thought, I get it. It's kind of like allies with people who are LGBTQIA ligabatois. Okay. And I was like, ooh, girl, it's all white women in your comments right now talking to you. When the black women see this, you know that TikTok that's like, when the men find out we can shape shift, they're going. I was like, ooh, when the black girls find out you over here trying to virtue signal, it's not going to be good for you. I was like, but you know what? In the world of having to learn the complexities of being a white woman in America today, that is one of the lessons that y'all have to learn. So I didn't say nothing. I didn't like the video. I just saw the video. I went about my business and I let it cook. Okay. I let it cook. About a day later, the black women got it. And the black women responded exactly like I thought they would. Some of them said, I don't care about this bracelet. Most of them was like, it's effingtive. It's performative. Okay. And we don't want it. Keep your beepity bop bop beep bop bop blue bracelet. I mean, I saw all kinds of videos going all up and down my timeline. I saw white women selling blue bracelets, which to me, I'm like, let me say something. If you're going to rock a blue bracelet, at least buy the blue bracelet from a black woman. I'm trying to understand how is it a closed system? How is it a closed system of white women trying to say that they're safe, other white women telling them how to say that they're safe, them by themselves deciding on blue bracelets all by themselves and then buying it from each other. What is that? Think about it, you guys. Remember I talked about the critical thinking? We got to critically think. Okay? We got to critically think. That don't make no sense to me. So I want to say this. I recently came into contact with a blue icon meant to make me feel safe in the wild for the first time. Yes, it was not a bracelet. It is a digital platform that I'm on, and a white woman had a blue heart next to her name. It is a very intimate digital platform where it is 2 to 4 people on like a video call, strangers, right? I'm not always strangers because sometimes you can be paired with people over and over, but in a specific platform, you can be paired with 2 people. So it could be you and 1 other person or you and 3 other people, up to 3 people, 4 people maximum. And it was probably a few days ago, under a week, I was paired with a white lady that had a blue heart. And you know what? It's complicated. That's my thoughts on the blue virtual signaling blue thing. I'm not going to lie. When I first saw it, I thought, I would prefer for you to be a cool person and not have to put a bracelet on your arm to tell me that you're a cool person. The white woman 8 years ago that told me she wished that she wasn't getting black women cutting their eyes at her in the grocery store also told me, but I understand why. And she did not then go on to try to virtue signal, right? She's just a cool human being. So part of me was like, I don't know if the bracelet is what we need, you guys. I want you guys to be more exposed to Black culture, not to steal it, to learn from it, not to colonize it, to know what it is so that you are familiar with what's happening in a way that doesn't make you feel afraid. You know what I mean? Because like, I can often feel a vibe and a difference between a white person who feels like they've been around Black people and a white person who hasn't. I saw a white lady ask on TikTok 2 Black women, what makes you feel safe around us? And the answer is, that's a tough question to answer, boo-boo, because are we safe around y'all? And that's a sad thing. We should be able to say that aloud. Are we? So that's a hard question to answer. You should be asking yourself, are we safe around y'all? But if I had to try to nuance, give an answer to that for me, A Virgin Islander who grew up around a lot of white people who, Frenchies in the Virgin Islands who don't actually even fully consider themselves white. Sucker could be blonde hair, blue eyes, and they look you full in their face and tell you they are not white people. And you just like, listen, try to explain that to these descendants of Europeans in the States, okay? But the difference between when I feel like I am not in harm's way and when I feel like I'm in harm's way is when I feel like a white person has been around Black people and they aren't othering us, as opposed to white people who have never been around Black people or who rarely are around Black people. And so everything you do is being looked at through the lens of their cultural norms and prone to being misunderstood. There's more to it, but that's that. Blue Isis says, especially at work. Yeah. Most work environments in our Western culture are based off of whiteness. So are you getting your authentic Black person showing their real self at work? No, you're not. Because unfortunately, so much of what is authentic in Black presentation culturally has been deemed unprofessional. So the code switches are hard. The code switches are physical code switches. The code switches are voice code switches. The code switches are tonality code switches. The code switches are word choice code switches. We dag near a whole different human being and kind of have to be at times. And I'm not saying this is prescriptive. I'm saying it's descriptive. I wish it wasn't like that, but I'm just saying. So to ask the question of, are we safe? I think the question should be pulled back and be, or what makes us feel safe? I think the question should start with, are we safe? How do I be a safe person and not just put a bracelet on? I saw a lady say that a Black lady was at the store and a white woman walked up to her and like pulled up her sleeve and showed her a blue bracelet. And at first she was confused. She was like, what is that for? But then she was like, oh, she's trying to tell me that she's safe. But you know what I thought was weird about that woman's story? The white woman didn't talk to her. She didn't talk to her. So she was still othering her in a sense. The importance of that interaction was for her to lower her feeling of discomfort in a system that is now showing you that the group that you are a part of can predominantly vote for things that will harm itself. It's a leopard eating its face type of system that you're in. And even though you feel yourself to be an outlier, you are like, for the first time, experiencing, as people have said online, being judged by the color of your skin and not the content of your character. And because in the role that you play in our society, you have been taught not to feel discomfort. That means everyone else has to feel the burden of the discomfort you don't ever have to feel. So maybe that discomfort that you may be feeling for the first time in your life and that you are taught to immediately get rid of in white womanhood. There's a discomfort that I've noticed white women don't want to feel, that the rest of us have to feel on a daily basis. There is information and there is growth and evolution in that discomfort. So part of me is like, instead of wearing the blue bracelet, which I don't hate, I'm not going to say I hate it, because you heard me say, I saw the lady with the blue heart on the digital platform. She was kind, she was inviting, she smiled at me, and I'm not going to lie, in the environment that we're in post-election, it did make me exhale a little bit when I saw her come up on the platform with that blue heart. It did. I'm not going to lie. I did go, oh, thank God. Because just the idea of like, did you vote for him, was gone, right? But if she's not sitting in her discomfort, if she's terrorizing a Black woman at work because she doesn't understand Black culture, or she misinterprets what the Black woman is saying, or she misinterprets the tone of a woman's delivery, right? If she's about to go to Thanksgiving next week and sit there while her racist family members who voted for this man spew a bunch of stuff and a hard ER and not check them because she doesn't want to feel uncomfortable, that blue heart or the blue bracelet is for naught. It's for naught. Okay. I still don't understand why the woman walked up to her, showed her a blue bracelet, but didn't speak to her. I would want to know why you are so uncomfortable around Black people that you feel the need to other them and walk up and just show them a bracelet. Would you do that to a white woman? It was very weird, very bizarre. Okay. Very like expunge myself of the guilt of the others and try to make myself once again be one of the good ones. And that whole concept of be one of the good ones and being judged by skin color and stuff, doesn't that sound familiar? It's very much the experience of marginalized communities. And it's an experience that may be a novelty to people in your class. And I am not going to say, I am not going to say that I have any concept of the white experience in America. Clearly, okay? Because ain't nobody ever once even, excuse me, thought mistaken me for white. I am not, okay? It's a big old Black woman here, okay? 6'1" tall Black woman, all right? There has to be so much dissonance in trying to move against the grain of your group, right? One of the joys of being a Black woman on November 6th was, for the most part, I didn't have to feel like I was going against the grain of my group of people. We got it. We didn't have to listen. We understand. I looked at Black women and I felt pride. I looked at that number, that 92% of Black women that voted for Kamala, and I was like, we get it. We are the most educated group in the country. We are the thinking thinkers. We are the supporting supporters. We are the connectee connectors. We are close to the divine. I'm serious. So I don't know what it feels like to be an outlier in your group in that sense of white womanhood and the jarringness of really believing that y'all was going to come through, the dissociative state you got to go in, knowing good and full well that your cousins and your aunt are racist. I'm sorry. And then you wake up in the morning and you're just like, and that discomfort and that shame and all of that just floods over you. And the first thing that you want to do is get rid of that feeling. But you know what? Sometimes you got to sit in that feeling. You got to just sit in it and ask yourself questions. Why am I trying to get rid of this feeling? What is this feeling trying to tell me? Is this how people of color feel all the time? Is my ability to emotionally regulate immature because other people have taken away uncomfortable states from me because of whiteness and womanhood? Have I used the knowledge of that as a power move to gain in a situation where I knew other people were losing? Did I learn to do that from my ancestors? Do I see other people in my world of influence doing it as well? Loved ones, etc. Have I stood up for anybody when I saw somebody doing it to them, knowing that the thought was you're supposed to be on my side because of whiteness? But I have decided that my character will not allow me to be on the side of anything except how I want to show up. There's a lot of information in that discomfort. And there's a lot of information in the discomfort that Black women have already dug into and pulled out and have pulled out to the point that we are sitting our tails down and we are in our get somebody else to do it season. The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to go, you guys, is I feel like every single one of us, Black women specifically, since we're all chilling out, right? And hoping that the odds ever are in our favor, we're all going to see how this all turns out. And we're going to turn toward each other and support each other the way that we are always supporting other groups of people. I personally am going to get a mind my business project. I think I'm going to call it MYOB, my MYOB project, mind your own business. Remember that mind my own business, MMOB, maybe? I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. And what that means is every single time I find myself wanting to go external and rescue somebody outside of me, myself, and I, because, Sister Beyonce said that's all I have in the end. Okay. And or a brown sister, a Black sister that I also would like to support, because I realize ain't nobody checking for us like we got checked for each other. Every time I feel that automatic inkling to do the work, to put the cape back on, to rescue, to explain, to this, to that, to the other, which we are all detoxing from in this season, I'm going to do my MMOB project. And my specific MMOB project is I have one cookbook downstairs that I want to cook all the recipes all the way through. I'm so excited. It's an old cookbook from the Virgin Islands that I borrowed, quote unquote, from my mother many years ago. She's not gonna get it back. It's falling apart. You know it's good. The pages are browning. Okay. Is anything in that book keto? Probably not. But I'm going to just slowly divert my brain from constantly having to jump in and rescue and play my part in the system that will grind me into a fine dust and always call me to fix everything because of my skin and my gender, and detach whenever I feel the need to put the cape back on and instead do something that has to do with my MMOB project. And my specific MMOB project is going to be cooking through this cookbook. I encourage every Black woman to get their own minding my own business project. Maybe there's a quilt you've wanted to sew. Okay. Maybe there's a trip you've wanted to go on. Maybe you wanted to redecorate a room. Yeah. Maybe you wanted to like learn how to, I don't know, do your own weave. Maybe you want to learn how to paint. Maybe you want to become a plant girl. Okay. I'm going to cook through this cookbook. Now, to balance it out, there is a healthy cookbook that I have my eye on. I think I might actually buy that healthy cookbook and alternate, old school Virgin Islands recipe and then healthy recipe, old school Virgin Islands recipe, and then healthy recipe. Every single time I feel like putting my Black woman cape back on, I'm going to remind myself to toss it off and I'm going to go back into my MMOB project. I hope you have one too. And if you would like to support the sponsor of this podcast, become a patron. Patreon.com/Glamazzini. You can suggest topics for upcoming podcast episodes. You can weigh in on all kinds of stuff. You could be all up in my business. Okay. Patreon they up in the business. Okay. I also put up a video for them every single day, like a short little 2-minute. If you really just want to be closer to me, you have so much more access to me. And so thank you so much for the patrons that were here. Blue Isis, thank you so much for being here. You said you feel like merch is needed as well. You'd like to share this message. Merch for what specifically? Do you mean the MMOB thing? Okay, so merch about to get somebody else to do it. I wonder if I should put another B in there. So it's like MMOBB, minding my own Black business. I'm going to think about that. Anyway, don't forget to show up, speak up, F something up, and create your own monster. Bye, y'all.